So federal liabilities. So what I was just talking about was your liabilities under Oregon law only, okay? You have a whole nother series of laws that you're liable for, and that's federal statutes. Federal law covers things like Americans with Disabilities Act, employment practices, sexual harassment, discrimination of all kinds. You probably recall this, most of this all started to develop back in the 60s with the civil rights movement, when you had African Americans in the South that were being, lynched, and then the cops and the Ku Klux Klan that did it would go to circuit court in Alabama, and an all-white jury would say not guilty and let them off. And that happened over and over again. That's when the civil rights laws were created on discrimination, the start of it, to say, hey, enough is enough. That's depriving someone of their civil rights, their U.S. constitutional rights. Therefore, the U.S. government should have jurisdiction over those types of claims and allegations to keep that from happening on a local level. So the big deal with federal lawsuits, what we see most common all the time at SDIS is employment claims, especially with layoffs, okay? Public employees have certain constitutional rights to their jobs. If anyone is fired from a public agency anymore, there are so many different protections that they can sue you under that you cannot do it without getting legal advice, okay? If they're under any protected class, gender, race, religion, if they have ever filed any kind of complaint against you, an OSHA violation, they got whistleblower protection rights, it goes on and on and on. In fact, a lot of trend we see now is you have a real problem employee and they know they're going to be disciplined and they're afraid they're going to get fired, they'll go file maybe an OSHA or bully complaint against you. That way immediately they've protected themselves with federal whistleblower statutes, okay? So the moral of the story is you've got to go get legal advice. And SDAO will provide you with that free legal advice before you terminate anyone, or even if you're going to make an adverse employment decision, like maybe demoting somebody. Don't do it without legal advice. And the reason why, too, is this costs the trust. These claims do a ton of money, because what people don't know is attorneys love federal claims. Because in federal claims, they get their attorney fees, all of it. If an attorney sues you in state court, they get a percentage, okay? They'll hire a client, or the client will hire them, and they'll agree that if they're successful and they win, they'll get, say, 30% of the judgment is what they get. In federal court, the sky is the limit. So I'll give you a real example of a case we had 2 years ago with a district that had an employee that had been a long-term problem employee, had been disciplined many times, and the district decided that they had to get rid of her in this case. So they fired her. The employee sued under 13 different allegations of discrimination, okay? But there was a good track record that she was not a great employee. So it goes to the jury, and the jury looks at it, and they said, allegation number 1, that's a bunch of bunk. Number 2, no way. Number 3, they get down to about number 11, and they thought, that really wasn't very nice that they did that, or that they said that to her. Let's give her $5,000. Okay, she's asked for $500,000. So let's just give her something, $5,000. Kind of feel bad for her, but we know that she doesn't really deserve anything. Okay, so she's awarded $5,000. Her attorney gets $350,000. The jury is not allowed to know that that's going to happen. The jury is not allowed to know that the attorney gets that amount. If the jury would have known, polled afterwards, they would say absolutely not. She wouldn't have got a dime. So you can see that the attorneys out there that specialize in this area of employment law, this is absolute gold mine for them. I mean, they'll take any kind of case they can get because they know that frankly, we have to settle a lot of these because you can't take that risk, especially in this kind of climate. People are very sympathetic to people that have been let go right now, obviously. Another thing about federal liabilities is, again, in federal court, individuals could be named on lawsuits. But, like I said, even federal court, you have to be indemnified and defended. Yes?
So what you're saying is documented as far as employee problems if you want to terminate. I know we've gone through a deal with SDAO on this.
Mm-hmm.
It's ended up being a dead end. And so if there is accurate documentation over a period of time, you have some legal recourse.
Right. Document. That's what you've got to do. And you've got to get legal help to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You told us not to do it.
Well, just one thing quick to kind of comment on his. Ron Downs in our office is an attorney. Ron specializes in employment law. And Ron gets calls frequently from districts that will say, we're having a board meeting tonight and we're calling to let you know that we're firing our office manager. Can we do that? Because you have to notify us and get our advice to waive your deductible, $10,000 deductible for employment practices. So I've put you on note, we're going to fire him tonight, is that okay? And Ron's answer is going to be absolutely not. You're not going to fire him tonight. We're going to look at all your documentation, we're going to see what you've got, and if it might take 6 months to go through and start building a track record, et cetera.
If you have a problem employee and you suspect that it's an employee that knows how to game all of this, and you don't want to take it on, can you simply shunt the employee over someplace else and keep them at their pay grade and at their title and continue to pay them?
I'm not an attorney that specializes in that, but I would say there's risks in that as well. Yeah, you don't have to sue to file a discrimination lawsuit. It doesn't have to be that you were fired. You can say that you were simply discriminated against and take some of your rights taken away, et cetera, treated badly.
In a bigger organization, they just promote them.
Right. Or a New York school system, they put them in a big room and let them stay there.
Yeah, that's what I meant, like what they do in the New York school or school
Yeah.
system. They throw teachers off to a room and they do crossword all day.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's one of the reasons they do that.
Frank, you're really talking about dismiss or attempting to dismiss an employee for cause. That's treated differently than a true layoff situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you dismiss a dozen employees because you don't have the
Right.
budget for their position.
No, Mark's comment was that, a layoff is different, obviously, than terminating for cause, but please get advice even on a layoff, because even if people get laid off, they're going to say, I was laid off because I was discriminated against. Or even if you've got an employment contract, a lot of times districts think, well, I've got an employment contract with my manager. Once the employment contract expires, we can just simply not renew the contract. Got a huge lawsuit we lost on that. We had a manager of a port district who was sued the district. Well, let me give you some background first. The manager was not doing his job, port manager. He frequently wouldn't come to work. He was gone a lot. The port commission was very frustrated, had disciplined him, had gotten legal advice in this case, decided that they were going to terminate him, told him that he had to come to work on this certain date for the hearing, disciplinary hearing. He didn't show up. They decided, okay, he didn't show up, we're going to let him go. What had happened, though, in the meantime is he had put the district on notice that the reason why he was having problems coming to work and doing his job is because he was suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome when he was a Vietnam vet. Okay? The district felt they had a 3-year employment contract with him, and that employment contract was up. So they felt they could just simply non-renew the contract, which is what they did. He sued saying that the reason the contract was not renewed was not because just it was up, it was because he had post-traumatic stress syndrome, Americans with Disabilities Act. The jury was sympathetic and gave him $450,000. So, Any questions about all that good stuff?
Lots of questions.
All right, SDAO. What is SDAO? How am I doing for time here? I don't want to... Oh, I got 10 minutes. All right. SDAO is a nonprofit corporation formed in 1979. We are not a government entity. We were formed because a bunch of special districts were down at the legislature themselves trying to keep from being legislated out of existence by cities over annexation battles. And so that's when they decided to form the association, essentially to fight for their survival and figure out how to come into Salem in a unified voice. And that's really been the core of the association. We have a legislative committee composed of all the major types of districts and even some of the smaller types as well. And it's been an amazingly effective process because if you can think about it, there's a lot of competing interests. You know, there's competing water interests between water and irrigation. There's some interest sometimes between fire and water, et cetera. But I think SDAO has been extremely successful in putting everybody in the same room and saying, what can we accomplish together? What can we come in there on a unified voice before the legislature and accomplish and protect ourselves on? And if you don't do that, you're dead, right? Because the legislature, you have no credibility. But SDAO has been able to build a lot of credibility by having a lot of cooperation and unity among competing interests and compromise. Saying, you know, okay, what can we give up here or there? What can we all live with? In 1985, there was a nationwide insurance crisis. It was front page news all over the United States. Public entities were canceled across the board, could not find insurance, commercial insurance coverage. And at that time, Oregon, as well as all 50 states, or almost all 50 states, created authorizing legislation allowing public bodies, local governments, to create their own self-insurance pools, essentially like their own mutual insurance companies almost, but not really because it's not regulated by the insurance division. So that's what was created back in 1985, and that's what exists today. There's 880 districts approximately that are part of the property, liability, and workers' compensation insurance programs that SDAO administers. And right now we have about $32 million in retained earnings as security to make sure that we're always able to pay your claims. In 1988, there was another kind of crisis with SAFE. SAFE canceled a lot of small entities, and they didn't want to write volunteers. And of course, our volunteer fire departments need coverage for their volunteers. And so that's in 1988, SDAO created a self-insured workers' compensation program. There's about 570 districts that participate in that program. So self-insurance, I just talked about. I want to talk for a few minutes about that. Basically, so there's three pools in the state that are under the law. There's the city county insurance services. They have a separate trust for most cities and counties. There's the school boards program that actually we administer under contract for them because we have the staff expertise. That's called PACE. And then there's the special districts insurance trust. Currently, nationwide, 85% of all public entities, about 74,000, don't buy insurance. They receive their coverage from self-insured programs like you're part of. And there's over 500 pools nationwide. But essentially what it means is that all the money that goes into the trust, you know, we're nonprofit, all the money belongs to you, the members. It all goes into the pool. That money is used to pay claims. The trust then also buys what's called reinsurance to protect the assets. So for instance, a lot of times people are worried, well, in an earthquake, you know, we're part of this pool. What happens if there's a big earthquake? Are we going to get wiped out? Is the trust going to get wiped out? Well, we buy reinsurance to protect ourselves. So like if there's a statewide earthquake that impacts, you know, everyone, the maximum deductible we have on our reinsurance policy is $500,000. So the trust can only be subjected to $500,000 a loss, and then the reinsurers pay after that. So that's how we protect the assets. And a lot of you probably know too that we've, from time to time, distribute that surplus back to the members. So this year we announced we distributed $2 million back to the members in the form of essentially dividends, called our longevity credit program. Other stuff that SDAO can do for you, technical assistance. Who knows Luann? Anybody talk to Luann? quite a few people. Luann is the main person that you want to talk to at SDAO. She knows everything, and if she doesn't know it, she will find out who does. So she's kind of our main conduit. Luann Ritchie, she's in charge of technical assistance. She also works really closely with Ron Downs, our in-house counsel. Employee benefits, we have a health, dental, life program sponsored through Pacific Source. Just got some great news yesterday that 0% increase if any of you are in that program for next year. Pre-loss legal assistance. Anybody that's in our property and liability program can call and get free legal help on anything you're worried might lead to a lawsuit. We're not going to be your law firm, but if you have a question of something you think you're going to get sued on, especially employment issues, call and we will get you that free help. Either Ron will help you or we'll actually, if it's something specialized, we'll contract out with another attorney and we'll pay that cost.
Question.
Yeah.
Employee benefits, health, dental, so forth, does that also apply to board members?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, just employees. Safety grants, we gave out $250,000 in safety grants this year. It's essentially $3,000 matching grant maximum, and it's absolute no-brainer. If it's safety security related, you can write one sentence. We need security lighting on our outbuilding. Approved, okay? That's how easy it is. So don't delay in not applying if you think it's a complicated process, because it's not. We'll provide you with 5 free criminal background checks a year if you're hiring people, as well as some free drug and alcohol testing. We have our Flex Lease and Flex TAN program. Flex Lease, that's if you want to buy equipment, buildings, etc. Through a lease purchase. You can do that through that program. Flex TAN, that's a tax anticipation note. What that means is if you get your property taxes in November, but your budget year starts in July. Sometimes you have a cash flow problem and you can't get enough money until November. You can borrow essentially money to bridge that gap and pay it back a year later. Education and training. We have a new online training program we just launched, getting great response from that already. 1,000 people have taken classes in it. It's a fantastic way to document the things that you have to do by law, like sexual harassment training. If you have employees, you got to do sexual harassment training once a year. And it's awful hard to document how you've done that, right? Or if even you're doing it. Now you have this online thing. You get in there, your employees can take the test. It will print out a certificate that they've taken it. You can sign it. It will also track it in the database so that you can know exactly who's taken it, who passed, who didn't. So all that's available to you, and that's free of charge. So look into that. If you don't pass, it lets you take it again until you do. So. Loss control, we have loss control safety people on staff that will come out to your facilities and help you with any of your risk management issues. So all you have to do is call and ask for them to come out. Management board consulting, George Dunkel is in charge of that program. Each district, it's like pre-loss legal. You get 8 hours of free management consulting a year, and from George and the other consultants that he works with. And so if you have let's say you're having a board problem, you need help with strategic planning, anything management related that's not insurance, and you just need some help, just contact George and he'll set you up. Management Resource Guide, that's the DVD that comes out. We've got model chapters on all those legal things I was telling you about, public budgeting, public meetings and records, public contracting. There's sample fill-in-the-blank policies that your board can use as a template. So make sure you're aware of that. And, of course, there's the website, which is www.sdao.com. And that's the end of my presentation. So, questions?